Hello, this is Nick Andre welcoming you to this screencast on completing lab assignments using Packet Tracer. In order to complete Lab Demo, I had to download 1.7.1.3 Skills Integration Challenge Introduction to Packet Tracer from Cisco's Networking Academy. In an earlier screencast, I demonstrated how to accomplish that task. In this screencast, I'm going to walk you through how to actually follow directions and complete Lab Demo and upload it to Blackboard. In the previous screencast, we downloaded the PDF directions for this lab. I mentioned it would probably be a good idea to print this out and use it as a reference as you complete the Packet Tracer assignment. There is another alternative to not having to use the PDF file, but use the on-screen instructions instead. Let me close out of this and illustrate how to get that. Over in my taskbar, I have Packet Tracer loaded up, and I have an icon hiding underneath the Packet Tracer window. If I hover over this group, I will see a Packet Tracer activity as well as Packet Tracer the application. I'm going to click on the activity window, and that was the window I told you I was going to minimize and take it out of my view. I'm going to grab this window and move it over here in my workspace, and I'm going to stretch it out a little bit. This little dialog box allows me to see the directions that were stored in the PDF file, at the same time having it up while I work on the Packet Tracer activity and monitor my progression by looking at this completion area. Right now my completion says 0%. Time has been 49 minutes that I had this file up and running. If I scroll down, I can see the learning objectives, what this assignment's all about, and then finally the steps to actually complete this assignment. The problem that I tend to get into from time to time is when I go and read something and I come over here and click on it, that window disappears. Once again, to get that window back, I come over to my task menu, hover over the Packet Tracer group, and then click on the activity. If you want this window to stay up on your screen all the time, put a check mark in the box that reads Top at the bottom of that dialog box, and that activity window will always stay up above Packet Tracer. I tend to move mine in the upper right corner, just next to the Minimize button, and just across from my workspace. Let's see what step 1 would like from us. When Packet Tracer starts, it presents a logical view of the network in real-time mode. The main part of the Packet Tracer interface is the logical workspace. This is the large area where devices are placed. In another screencast, I actually walked over the components and the areas for Packet Tracer. So I'm going to skip through this. If you're not sure what those areas are, please read through step 1 and step 2. Let's go on to task 2. Step 1. Connecting devices using AutoConnect. In an earlier demonstration, I called this the Smart Connection tool. To accomplish that, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to click on the lightning bolt. After clicking on the lightning bolt, I'm going to click on the very first icon, the AutoConnect or the Smart Connection. And they're telling me here in this first bullet, connect the Eagle server to R1 ISP's router. So I come over here, I click on the server, and then I click on the router. All is well. I have 2 green dots and they connected together using a crossover cable. I'll explain that later. For now, it's just simply coming down here, clicking on the lightning bolt, clicking on the first tool, clicking with the first device, then the second device. Let's go on. They want me to connect PCPT1A to the switch, doing the same thing that I did with the server and the router. So I click on this lightning bolt, click on the first PC, and then I click on the switch. Notice a little orange, give it some time. If I'm impatient, I can click on the fast forward, and that should go green. If it still stays red, you need to fix something with the cable. Now they're telling me to examine the devices, but before I get into that, I want you to notice by completing those two tasks, I have accomplished this assignment. It's 100%, and at this point I could stop, but I really haven't learned what this assignment was about. So I'm going to move on and look at step 2, examining device configuration. It says move your mouse over the device found in the logical workspace. As you move the mouse pointer over these symbols, the device configuration appears. Let's do this with the router. I'm going to hover right over top of the router, and oops, I might have to click on the canvas. Then I'm going to hover over the router, and a little pop-up screen appears telling me what exactly is configured, what the IP address is for the interfaces, and whether the links are up and down. This little box that appears will vary depending on what item you're hovering over. Let's take a look at what the server gives us. So I take my cursor, move it away from the item, give it a second for it to disappear, and then come back on top of the server. When I do this, you can see I have a different box compared to the router. It's saying the link is up, the address is 192.168.254.254 with a /24. That is the subnet mask for that interface. We'll learn about how to convert network prefixes with subnet masks. Now I'm going to go down and hover over the switch and see what kind of box I appear. This is a 24 port switch. They're letting me know that port 1 and port 2 are connected because it says link up. The others are not used, so we move on and let's hover over the PC. And you can see the IP address, the gateway address, and the DNS. Likewise, you can do it with the other PC. I'm just going to move on to the other step. Now it's saying do a further examination of the devices by clicking on them and watching the dialog menu pop up. So let me click on the router. And they're saying when you click on a router, whoops, do you see I have a little overlapping going on here? I'm going to move my dialog box for the activity over more. And then I'm going to move the dialog box for the router. So this way I'm not stacking my windows. And it's saying when you click on a router or a switch, you'll have 3 tabs: the physical tab, the configuration tab, and the command line interface tab. In the physical tab, you can actually add and remove devices on the router. Before you to do that, you have to turn off the router, pull off the cover, and then grab one of these items and drop them in there, similar to the way you would do it in the real world. In the configuration tab, you are provided with a GUI interface to Cisco's command line prompt. You'll get to know this as the course goes on. The alternative to entering in commands in GUI is how the professionals do it, and that is a command line interface. Here's Cisco's operating system. If I hit enter, I'll be asked for a password. I have to enter it in, log in, and then I'd be at a prompt that would request commands. Let's see what it looks like for the switch or the server. Let's click on the switch first. Very similar to the router, but I just can't upgrade it. But I have a configuration tab, just much the same way that I have in the router. I also have 24 Ethernet interfaces that I could manually configure. And if I click on the CLI and hit enter, once again, it's asking me for a password in the same way that the router does. That's because the router and the switch both use the same operating system. Let's see what happens when I click on the server. In the server, I have 3 tabs, but this time instead of saying the CLI, I have the desktop tab. If I click on that, I get to see that I can configure the IP address using an application. I can go to the infamous command prompt for pinging and troubleshooting. I can generate text files, can even browse the web on this virtual network, or just generate traffic for the network. I'm going to close out of this dialog box, and I'm going to show you how that changes compared to a PC. So let me click on one of the PCs down here, and I can, as you can tell, I have 3 tabs: physical, config, and desktop. But this time, I have a little bit more applications going on. I can set up a wireless PC, a dial-up connection, even a Cisco phone, as well as address emails. Let's go back to my dialog, my activity dialog box. Let me scroll down and see what else they want me to check out. We did the server, we did the PC, and the last thing they're just saying is let's reflect on this exercise. In this demonstration, all we accomplished was connect the first PC to the switch and the server to the router. We learned how to manipulate the on-screen directions, keep an eye on the completion, and when we're done, we can always click Check Results to see where exactly I have items wrong and how I can go back and improve them. If I click on the assessment items, I will see a couple of green checks letting me know that those are correct. If I see a little red X next to an item, it means I did it wrong, and I should probably go back and see if I can figure out how to correct that. Cisco does not grade as you go. It gives you a chance to get 100% before you submit the file. To get back to where I was at, I'm going to come down here and click on Close. And you can see I have my activity dialog box up, and I also have my logical topology going on. Everything else should be accomplished, and now it's time to submit this onto Blackboard. Before I submit it on the Blackboard, I'm going to save my work, so I'm going to go up to File, and I'm going to choose Save As. The only reason why I'm choosing Save As is to make sure, once again, that this is being stored on my flash drive inside the Corning folder, Fall 2012, CSNT 1200, then Labs. I see down here it says lab-demo NJA, like I originally called it, so I'm just going to click Save, and it's going to say, are you sure you want to override this? And I'm going to say yes. Then I'm going to close out a packet tracer. And it's going to ask me again, before you close, would you like to save any changes? This is Cisco just being thorough so you guys don't lose your work. Click yes. And then packet tracer should To get back to Blackboard, I'm going to simply click on Firefox in my task menu. And as you can see, it loads up back to my upload assignment lab-demo. I'm going to scroll down to where I can actually attach files to this assignment. I'm going to click Browse My Computer. And this is why it was important that you remembered where you saved your packet tracer file, because Blackboard's going to ask you for the location. It's in my flash drive. It's in Corning Community College. It's under the Fall 12, in my case, CSNT 1200. Labs, and then I called it lab-demo NJA. Let me click Open. And then I'm going to come down here to Submit. And when you click Submit, I will get it, and you will not be able to return it back. If you just click as Save as Draft, you can download it again, update it, and then finally submit it. Let me click Submit. And as you can see in the green box above, this assignment is complete. Review the submission history. I'm just going to click OK. And now I'm back to week 1's table of contents. So, in this screencast, I walked you through how to complete an activity following the step-by-step instruction for Packet Tracer. When I completed those instructions, I saved the activity, went back to Blackboard, attached it to the assignment that the file came from, and then I clicked Submit. After the instructor graded the assignment, I can come back and look over what grade I got. That'll be for another screencast.